Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, all of our guests today brought to you by Delaney's OK Tire in Langley and Aldergrove, in business for over 20 years. OK Tire, Canadian-owned and operated from coast to coast. Visit them at 19863 Fraser Highway in Langley. New location, 3063 275 A Street in Aldergrove. I always get choked up talking about those guys.
Yeah.
Love them. Delaney's OK Tire.
Rightfully so.
Boy, our Delaney's OK Tire in Langley and Aldergrove inbox hopping just before we get to Farhan. Now you threw in a whole bunch of submissions here. And I've lost my spot here.
I haven't done
Don
anything.
D from Nanaimo. How about Mark Crawford as an assistant coach with Foote? Doesn't Foote have a relationship with Crawford in Colorado? Of course, he played for Mark. They won a Stanley Cup together.
That's right.
In Colorado. Farhan joins us now from TSN. How you doing, sir?
Good, boys. On my way to the rink to check in with the new head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. You might have heard of him.
Yeah, Adam Foote. What was your reaction when you heard the news yesterday, Farhan?
Mildly surprised. I did think that if they were going to hire a first-time NHL head coach, it was going to be Manny Malhotra, even though the bulk of the candidates that they were talking to, had that type of resume. There were some that had, minor head coaching experience at the NHL level, not necessarily a long resume, but I did think it was trending that way, but I did know that Foote was right in the mix. So, a little bit surprised, a little bit concerned just based on the lack of overall coaching experience, some of the things I've heard out of Kelowna. But I also get it from the standpoint of wanting a level of continuity and the Quinn Hughes factor and all of that.
Should Manny Malhotra be upset, Farhan?
Great question. I think he's done everything in his power. This year, Manny Malhotra has conducted a symphony, right? Like the way this team has played and the 13-game win streak and still alive in the third round of the playoffs and the number of times his regulars were in Vancouver. I think he's done everything. He's probably got a better overall resume than, say, Adam Foote does. But Manny's time's going to come. I just think from a Canucks standpoint, you lost this guy from your organization once. I didn't think they'd want to do it again, but here we are.
Was it a situation? I just got lost in I got lost. But anyways, Farhan,
regroup.
I hope they didn't do Foote just to keep Quinn Hughes, because that's a big thing that I've heard in the last 48 hours is, that guy could still walk in 2 years. Then what are you going to do then?
Yeah, it's a great point, Rick, and I do think that the Quinn Hughes factor was a part of this. And not that Quinn had a problem with Manny, but he certainly has credited, we know what he said about Rick Tocchet and how much he wanted him back and what he's meant to Quinn, but he's also spoke similarly about Adam Foote, right, and just how much he's taught Quinn about playing defense, how much he's improved the team's overall structure, let alone their penalty kill, which Quinn necessarily isn't a big part of. But, so he likes him. I'm sure at some point they would have asked Quinn, do you think he's ready to be a head coach? And do you think he can handle the other side of this, right? Because this is not simply about coaching defense, because you've got a group now on the back end that is pretty good, right? Defense was the problem going into last season. They were solid up front, and now it's flipped, especially down the middle. So, you guys mentioned before you got to me in the segment about, what the assistant coaching staff is going to look like. And I think that's got to be a big part of this. But I agree with you, Rick, because this is not enough. And I have to believe that one of the reasons Rick Tocchet made a change and decided not to come back was because he didn't know the future and wasn't able to get a huge commitment out of, one, Quinn Hughes, and two, Jim Rutherford.
Well, that was a big part of Tocchet's thinking. There's no question about that. I'll be with you on that one. BC Lions training camp in Spain, as Donnie calls it, but it's really in Kamloops.
Thanks, Rick.
I miss camp. I miss going to camp. It's been a long time.
Can I tell you camp story? Can I tell you camp story?
Yes, that's what we want.
Years ago, before we made Kamloops a regular, they did have a camp up there. And I went up there, and while we were up there, I played golf with Donnie Taylor and Trevor Henderson.
Oh.
And at one time, I was kind of looking off into the distance somewhere, and Don shanked one.
I remember that.
And yelled 4, and I turned around, and literally the ball was coming at me, and I ducked. And if I didn't duck, I would not be here talking to you today.
Oh.
Farhan, just so you know, that wasn't a shank.
It wasn't a shank. It was on purpose.
Yeah, I remember that, Donnie.
I remember it well. Sorry about that, buddy.
Back to
I haven't moved so fast. I have not moved so fast since my playing days.
back to the Lions before your golf story.
Yeah.
Coming out of what kind of stories are you hearing out of camp? Competitive? Where are the positional battles for the Lions right now?
Well, I think the big ones. Number one, I think that they're wanting to give some looks to some people at receiver, but I think there are some incumbents, right, with Eberhardt and Berryhill, but some guys have stood up and impressed there. The other area is offensive line, right? Like I know they want to give George Una every opportunity to win the starting guard spot, and so far he's looked good, but they haven't been in pads a lot. Dejon Allen's got the hamstring injury, so he hasn't been practicing. He's the player they acquired in the trade from Toronto, so it's given them a chance to look at some other combinations, which has been positive. But the biggest area of need in my mind is what's going to happen at the defensive halfback spots, because we know where they're going at corner with Gary Peters and Dante Williams, who they got from Saskatchewan. But the two guys at the halfback spots, I know Ronald Kent Jr. the other day made a play, a pick six. But those are the areas where they need the most improvement, and I think that's going to take a little bit longer to flesh out and put those guys in as many situations as possible to put some stress on them to see who comes out of the battles for those two spots, field half, boundary half.
How did Amar Doman land Snoop Dogg?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, look, you got to spend it to make it, right? And when you get guys like 50 Cent and and even One Republic and LL Cool J, and when you get that type of act, you're playing in the big leagues, right? So Amar Doman's got to continually one up what he did the previous year, right? And this certainly does that. Now it's the third straight year of a legacy rap act. Now I like that, right? So,
yep.
But not necessarily. That's not necessarily for everybody. So maybe next year they change genres or do some things a little bit differently. But you're paying a lot of money to get a guy like Snoop, and but look, they made money on last year's concert, and I have no doubt they're going to sell it out again and make money on this year's. You got to spend it to make it.
Farhan, we got to let you go. Busy show today. Thanks for this. Heads up on the golf course.
Yep.
There you go. Donnie's favorite word, four.
We've all said it. We've all done it.
Thanks, Farhan. Appreciate it. Oh, of course. I do remember that. He brought back memories.